morning, Gospel Lighthouse Church. My name's Pastor Mike, or Pastor Smitty. I'm the executive pastor here, and today I'm just here and I'm going to share my story with you. My story all begins sort of when I was a teenager. Growing up, my family we weren't crazy about church. We went to a Presbyterian church for a while as a kid, I remember, and we went to a few different churches. But by the time I got to high school, I don't remember really going anywhere. And one day, my friend, she came to me and she said, "Hey, want to come to my youth group tonight?" And I'm willing to try something. So I said sure. And we went there. Me and my sister. She's 10 months older than me, so we did most stuff together. And we went in there, and it was good. My sister, I think, liked it more, and she started going there more often, which naturally, being a brother, I decided not to go. So she was kind of going here and there, and I didn't really go there anymore. And then eventually, my friend gave me a call randomly I feel like it was like a Friday night, and she said, "Hey, there's this opportunity. We have this free ticket to a youth retreat. If you want to come, it's paid for. All you gotta do is just bring your stuff and come." And something free, I jumped on it. I said, "Yeah, I'll go. I'll check it out." I don't know who was there or what day it was. I just know it was in the fall time. But that's when Jesus really, he came into my life like nothing other. And just remember really truly giving my heart to God then, and just really starting to understand who God was at that point. And I just had such a hunger and fire inside. I got home, I just had this little booklet of John. I just read through that thing and highlighted it all and tried to learn as much as I could about the Bible. And after that, I just, I was in church constantly. Even if my sister was there, I was there. So that's a pretty big deal. My story kind of continues when it was I don't know, probably a holiday, but we were going to see my grandma and grandpa up in North Jersey, and it's a 3-hour ride. And back in those days, I had my CD Discman, and I remember I was laying down in the back of our minivan, and I was sitting there and I was listening to a Delirious CD. The song "History Maker" came on, and when that song came on, the Spirit of God just hit me so hard, and it just felt Him saying to me, "Hey, I want you to be a history maker for this generation, for this world. I want you to do something for my kingdom." And I felt called to full-time ministry at that point, sitting in the back of my parents' minivan. And I just remember laying back there kind of weeping and trying to keep it quiet so no one really knew what was going on or asked me any questions about it. And that was a pretty cool time in my life. So naturally, after feeling that call of God on my life, I went and I spoke to my youth pastor. At that time, my best friend Joe, we hung out all the time. We did everything together, and he felt like he was called to be a youth pastor as well. And so we went to my youth pastor and we sat down in his office and said, "Hey, we want to tell you something." And we sat down and said, "Hey, we both feel like we're called to ministry." And I remember at that time, it should have been one of the happier moments of my life, but it was actually pretty defeating. My youth pastor, his reaction was more like, "Joe, awesome, I believe in you, but Mike, maybe you should kind of rethink this, keep praying about it, seek God's face for it." And it was very, it was very harsh. At that point though, I didn't really let it bother me. It was just like, wow, I knew God had a call for me, and nothing was gonna kind of take that away from me. At that point in my life, I was a very, very quiet person. I know you're probably sitting there, "Well, you're pretty quiet," but I'm pretty quiet now. But back then, I was like 10 times more quiet. I would just sit there and just kind of take things in, and if you asked me questions, it'd be like a 1-word, 2-word answer. It wasn't like I would spill my guts out to you for any reason. The perfect example is when me and Vicky first met. I remember sitting in this common area at college, and she came up and said, "Hey, I'm Vicky, what's your name?" And if she tells a story, it's just, I just sat there and said, Mike, and that's it. And then she just walked away because I didn't say anything else. So, you know, it was just, I was a quiet kid. I was very quiet. Went to Valley Forge, did all my stuff, and, you know, it was always a hard time because you see all these people in college that are going to train to be in the ministry, and, you know, they just don't have the same personality I do. You know, most of them are more outgoing and excited, and, you know, they just want to, like, scream from the mountaintops, and I'm the kind of guy that just kind of sits there and, you know, takes it in, and I want to, you know, understand everything before I just start blurting out an answer or advice. And, you know, it was hard because most ministry classes, you know, you kind of sit there and you doubt yourself. And at that point in my life, I was like, well, you know, I know, God, you called me to this, you know, but, you know, why do I feel so inadequate? And I just said, God, you know, I'm giving it all to you. You know, if you have this plan for my life, I know that you will bring me through it. I know that you will help me through it. And, you know, I always think of that saying that says, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And, you know, I knew at that point that if he called me to it, you know, he was going to help me through it. He was going to equip me. He was going to give me those tools and everything that I needed to become the pastor, the leader that he wanted me to be. You know, I went through college, got to around graduation day, and, you know, naturally you're graduating, you want to find a position, you want to find a ministry to be a part of. And I sat in this Real 2 office of school where basically all these churches come to and they say, hey, we need a youth pastor, we need a senior pastor, we need this, we need that. And you would sign up and they would come and give you interviews and they would, you know, hire people from that. And I remember going in there and just, I signed up for a whole bunch of interviews, a whole bunch of stuff, and I sat in on these interviews and it was always just, no, 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 no. And then you'd see your friends around you, yeah, I'm going here, you know, I interviewed there, I did this, I'm going here and doing that. And it was very hard because it's like, all right, God, if this is really your calling, you know, I want you to, you know, you got to make it happen. And, you know, the enemy definitely gets in your ear and kind of says, hey, you know, maybe you didn't hear God in that minivan that day. Maybe you weren't, you know, really in tune with God. Maybe it's just you. And, you know, he gets you to really doubt and to kind of think, well, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Eventually, I graduated. You know, a few weeks later, me and Vicky got married. We had no place to go, really. And so, naturally, we went to our parents' houses. We went and lived with her parents for a while, lived with my parents for a while, lived with her parents for a while. And, you know, we were faithful, we kept praying through it and seeking God and looking and looking and looking, going through interviews, going to places, and still nothing really worked out. And then eventually, my best friend at the time, my best man at my wedding, he called me up and he said, hey, you know, there's a position 40 minutes from me and they're looking for a youth pastor. You know, we went, contacted the church in Austin, New York, talked to them, and, you know, they had us come up. And, you know, it was a small church, and basically just wanted a youth pastor. It didn't really matter. It didn't really have much qualifications. It was just, you came and, hey, if you want the job, you can have it. And, you know, at that point, you know, the enemy kind of gets in your head again, and he's like, hey, you know, well, I guess you're kind of taking the only thing that's available. Congratulations. And it's just, it was kind of scary at the time because, you know, even though you might feel that way, you know, I knew that God was calling us there. But, you know, being there, you know, we just felt God's peace and him saying, you know, this is where you're supposed to be. And, you know, it's, you know, you just have to really trust in God, because even nowadays, if you talk to Vicky about, you know, when I first graduated, you know, she even says, you know, I was kind of worried as well. You know, were you really called to be in ministry? You know, was that really something I doubted? And, you know, I'm glad she didn't tell me that then, because that would have been really hard. But, you know, if God has a plan for you, he will make it happen. We went Austining and we were there for 6 years. You know, it was a great time of just learning, you know, God just really pouring out in me, you know, equipping me with different skills and things that he wanted me to do in the ministry. And even though it was a rough time at points, it was truly a time when God really helped me. That's when I learned the guitar. There was a need for worship in the youth ministry, and no one else was really capable. And basically, I felt the tug to, hey, pick up the guitar. I tried in college. It was horrible. I hated it. And when I was a kid, I played the trumpet. I played for a few years. I don't think I was any good, but I knew God was calling me to pick it up, and I did. And it was just kind of a miracle in my perspective, because it was just within like 2 weeks, I think I was up there playing worship songs, and it just kind of came so naturally. And God's really blessed me with a musical ability. And if I look back 10 years ago, I would never say I would be able to play an instrument or do stuff like that. And just being able to have the ability to work with computers, to build, we have the website I make, we do all the publications around the building that we print, everything that is multimedia wise, these videos, that's all something I do. And I would never dreamed years ago that I would be able to be capable of making such things and being able to do it. But like I said earlier, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And I know that he has helped me and equipped me with these things, and you just have to be faithful. Through all those years of just kind of having that little voice of doubt in your head, and the enemy just kind of saying, hey, is this really your thing? Austining, that kind of helped. We built the youth group up. We had a great bunch of kids, and we really thrived in ministry. Eventually, we talked to Dave Hartwick, and basically 2 churches really stuck out to us. The church in Utica, New York, and here in Hudson Falls. And we went to Utica, and we interviewed there. We sat in on the service, and it was a really nice church. It was beautiful. It had its own youth building, its own gymnasium sort of thing. Just everything they had was just brand new, and it was really nice. And the people there were really nice, and the hospitality was cool. And it was at that point, me and Vic were just like, wow, like God's really been blessing us, and it was encouraging. And after we left there, we came to Hudson Falls. We came in, sat in the service, and I remember, it was good. We got to talk to Pastor Paul. We sat down with him, shared our heart, and we just knew that God was calling us here. Was Hudson Falls the most glamorous? Did it offer the best package, most money? No. But if you know me, it doesn't matter. I want to be in God's will. I want to be where God wants me to be. And that was an awesome time, because not only did God point us in the direction he wanted us to go, it also kind of confirmed to me my calling. Because you can sit here and you can doubt and worry and say, maybe it's just me. But that was kind of the point when God said, hey, this is your calling. This is where you're supposed to be. This is what I want you to do. And it really just kind of solidified it in my mind, that God was really, helping me through that. Through all those times, through all those doubts, it would have been easy to just say, well, forget it. I'll do this. Or, when God has a call in your life, and that God wants you to do something, that if you got to do it. If not, he's just going to keep, tugging at you until you actually do it. If you could learn anything from my story, if you could take away anything, I would just say to you today that if you feel like God's calling you to anything, don't ignore it. Don't sweep it under the rug. Run with it. If you don't feel like you're good enough to do something, you don't have the personality, you don't have the boldness, what? I say to you, who cares? God will give you all the tools that you need to do whatever he wants you to do. So, keep up the faith, keep moving, keep pressing on, because he will equip you to do anything that you're called to do.